in the lane, moving fast, ayy, ayy. Let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss, ayy.
This episode is brought to you by SPI Logistics, the premier freight agent logistics firm in North America. For over 40 years, SPI has been diligently building the most successful freight agent network to provide first-class relationships for our shippers, receivers, and carrier partners. We are more than another transportation network. We are a dedicated team of professionals united by one singular purpose, and that is to expedite our agents' success. All of our agents are set up for success on day one, as they are provided with a full suite of support staff that is ready to assist them with everything from after-hours emergencies to financial and administrative needs on a no-fee basis. This way, you can focus on continuing to grow your business. There is no financial risk to start, and you have the ability to earn up to 75% in commissions. If you are looking to take control of your financial future and build your business with the backing of one of the most successful logistics firms in North America, visit www.spi3pl.com to learn more. Do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, you guys, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Monday, everybody. We're going to dive right in. I got a very special guest for you guys here today. You know, this is one of the, well, it's not so rare anymore that I get to meet all of my guests in person. But, you know, I just was hanging out with him about a month ago now out in San Antonio. And, you know, what he's building, from my opinion, it's a very valuable tool for a lot of companies out there. Entrepreneurs such as myself who are trying to build together a team, bootstrapping that and trying to grow and scale that out there. But what I love the most is with any of my guests is when they have actual tangible experience in building real businesses inside of the transportation industry and then taking that and parlaying it into other ventures out there. So I got Mr. Kyle Wilson on the show today, ladies and gentlemen, to break all of this down with offshoring and building all of this stuff out there. So Kyle, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, no, Chris, good to see you here today. And you kind of took my intro, right? I was going to tell everybody that we were having this conversation at the TIA conference, waiting for that beautiful drone show to start, you know, probably about a month ago today. So I'm just glad that we can be here to finish it. And, you know, really, you know, my story is about logistics, and then is about, you know, kind of finding a few, you know, very interesting parts of logistics through my journey growing a company called Yellow Diamond and Thrivemodal. But Chris, my story is this, right? So I'm from Annapolis, Maryland. I moved to Atlanta, Georgia in 2005 to go to Emory University. I graduated with a degree in economics in 2009, which everybody knows was the recession. So there were no fancy Emory economics jobs to be had. So I you know, wanted to make my parents happy. So I took the first job I was offered from a company called Echo Global Logistics as a national account manager. It sounded like a great job. It was cold calling, right? So, you know, I took that job and found out pretty quickly that I was, you know, very good at it. I was sales rep of the year, both years that I was at Echo. And I figured that, you know, I should probably put that on my resume and try to increase what I was making. So I left Echo, went to a very small logistics company called Trans Dynamics in a small city called Norcross, Georgia. That was just 40 employees all under one roof. And what I learned there was how a freight company operated, all the way from lead gen to collections, right? So by the time I was 30, you know, it was kind of painfully obvious to me that, you know, to continue out earning all of the doctors and lawyers that I went to college with at Emory, that I was probably going to be a freight broker for the rest of my life. So, you know, I had to start, you know, I had to think to myself, what am I going to do? Am I going to just be a commission sales rep for the rest of my life, Chris? Or am I going to try to increase that 10 or 15% to something more substantial? So I opened my first business, Yellow Diamond Logistics, really just thinking, Chris, to serve myself. I just wanted a machine that spit out the cash to me before other people got their hands on, right, those commissions. And so all of those things changed at Yellow Diamond, and a couple transformative things happened there, right? So this was like 9 years ago. And when it came time to hire that first employee for me, and this would have been track and trace back in that day, right? Somebody just to call the trucks, ask where they are, and then write it down in the system. I just couldn't stomach paying an American, $50,000 or $60,000 to do that. I had never been impressed really with kind of the operational workers that had been with me in the United States. And I knew that there were what's called virtual assistants in the Philippines. And I'm going to describe that as English speakers who know the G Suite of products or the Microsoft suite of products. And so the virtual assistant era was a great era. I was able to grow Yellow Diamond Logistics, my company, from $0 to about 55 million a year in revenue with those virtual assistants. But, something very transformative happened again, on that path. This was about 4 years ago, Chris. A family friend came to me and said, Kyle, I've seen all the success you've had at Yellow Diamond, staffing logistics from the Philippines. What do you think you can do for my solar panel manufacturing company? And so my friend said, can you find me an electrical engineer with a master's in electrical engineering to work at my solar panel manufacturing company in New Jersey? And honestly, I said to the guy, I've just done logistics operations positions. That sounds a little bit complex, but nonetheless, let me go out there and see what I can do. And so what I found really blew my mind. We found a guy named Daryl Latrata. He had a master's in electrical engineering. He replaced a University of Delaware graduate with that same master's degree and 7 years experience. That guy was earning $140,000 a year. Daryl replaced him for $16 an hour. When I had my 3-year check-in with Daryl, he's number 2 at the company. He handles all of project management. So submitting the solar drawings to the municipalities, managing their response. If they change up the drawings, he then reshops that with his vendors and then gets a buying decision from his customers. So when I saw that position happen, that's when a turning point in my head kind of came up and said, wow, why are we calling these people virtual assistants? And what just happened here with this electrical engineer taking a very skilled job in the United States? And so that's when I kind of put this all together, Chris, and said, the virtual assistant era is over. Really what we're doing here is we're in, 2025. We're in a worldwide workforce. If you're graduating from college today, when I graduated from Emory in Atlanta, Georgia, I was competing with Georgia Tech and Georgia State. I just spoke over at Emory 2 weeks ago, and I told their graduating class, especially this marketing class I was speaking at, you're competing against the whole world. You're competing against people from the Philippines, from India. And so what we have here is what I call the worldwide workforce is what we're creating. People are able to plug into US companies, and the rewards for doing so are at an all-time high. And so what you're now seeing is kind of the final era of what you see as far as offshoring, which is direct one-for-one recruitment of the exact candidate you're trying to hire locally from a different country for about a third of the price as you'd be hiring locally. So we've been able to do that in finance and accounting, marketing, at the controller level, at the marketing manager level, you name it. At the end of the day, the only thing we haven't done is kind of the C-suite, Chris. So that's my story. That's what I'm doing today.
So, I look at it as I see, and I'm not comparing it to this, but I feel like with remote work and with nearshoring, offshoring and everything, there was a stigma with it, just like there was a stigma with online dating at some point. And then now that's just how everybody does it, right? Like if you look at, Kyle, we're about the same age, like us kind of growing up, online dating was, there was a stigma associated with that. Now that's literally how everybody does everything. And then with this though, I remember, 5 years ago, there was, the nearshoring and offshoring thing was it was taboo out there, right? Now I would be shocked at companies that don't do it at some level in some roles. And if they're not openly talking about it, I truly feel like they're lying. And then I look at it like this, and fundamentally when it breaks down to it for me, Kyle, if you are for remote work, why does it matter where they're working from? Why do they have to be remote, but here in the United States? Because I'm of the mindset where if I'm going to hire somebody for a remote position and as long as their stuff's done at Tuesday at 2 p.m. or whenever I say that the stuff needs to be done at, I don't care if they're doing it from a beach in Australia or from Paris or, I don't care where they're doing it from as long as the work's being done on schedule from where it is. And I feel like that's kind of where a lot of things are is you're right, man. It is a literal global workforce now you are competing against people from everywhere, whether you want to admit it or not. That is the reality of where we are.
Agreed. And as a CEO, right, it's kind of your responsibility to adapt what's going on. And so what are kind of the great things you can do when you put some of your operational seats overseas? Well, you're saving $30,000 to $40,000 a seat. Go ahead and pay your salespeople more. Poach a salesperson from a brokerage that you really like with a nice book of business. For 3 operational seats overseas, you've got an extra $125,000 a year to spend in your sales department. So whether that's using one of the best recruiters in logistics to get yourself a real rock star to increase your revenue, or what you want to do, the CEO position allows you now to kind of put the right people in the right seats at your company, right? So again, if you've got track and trace roles where you've got a lot of turnover, or you've got retention issues in the United States, you've got to ask yourself, why are you having a lot of turnover? Is it just that those roles are not good roles anymore? Is it what they pay is just not enough in the United States to create utility? And the answer is kind of yes, right? The American dream here in the United States is kind of dead. Those entry-level positions are not getting you, a house in the suburbs anymore. But guess what? Those same positions are getting you a house in the suburbs in the Philippines, right? This entry-level work is now being paired with pay that's allowing you to move from lower to middle class or middle to upper class in other countries. And so that's enabling a CEO in America to keep every person happy in their seats and to create the most utility for their company.
So you bootstrapped Yellow Diamond, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So can you give some real examples? Because I feel like there's such a fallacy out there, Kyle, that, like, oh, you started this business, you just figure it all out right away because you filed your LLC paperwork and now all of a sudden you're a millionaire. What goes into those decisions? Because I just talked about this on the show last week, is like 5 hard truths that I've learned as an entrepreneur. And I think cash flow is always going to be number one in managing cash flow out there. What was that like when you were at that point in building Yellow Diamond where you were stressed to the max, your time was stressed to the max, like you were just running around trying to just keep your dream alive, and you knew you were at your limits from a productivity standpoint? Bring us back to that, man. Why was it like, I have to go this route, and I'm going to go this route to hire somebody from the Philippines the way you did?
Yeah. So to be able to scale the business as quickly as we did, which was, 4 years to 40 million, one of the most important parts is having all of your key players stay in their seats for a long period of time. And that's track and trace, that's customer service, that's dispatch. If every 6 to 9 months we're losing those people and having to rehire and retrain and recreate that hierarchy, we've got a bottom 1/3 of our company that's just turning over and evolving at all times. So by having those jobs in the Philippines, one, we were overstaffed. We always had more dispatchers than we need, more customer service than we needed, so that when I made a sales call, we had people ready to handle that stuff already. When you asked about the cash flow, we made money month 1, month 2, month 3, and we've made money every single month we've ever been in existence. And one of the nicest things was going through COVID, and even the last year, it was the freight recession. And as you're watching the headlines of XYZ brokerage laying off 1,000 people. Well, at Yellow Diamond, we did not have to lay anybody off because our operational structure was already at a cost basis that was low enough that we didn't have to just lop off 1/3 of it when everything went downhill. So we were able to grow during kind of a tough market and keep all of our key people, on our payroll, which has allowed us to emerge, into this 2025 freight market with a really strong team that's been practicing together for 5 years, right? And that's, when I get into this comment, your offshore team can be as good as your onshore team. I really mean that. When you have incentives in place for English speakers in the Philippines to book trucks at a higher, margin than the US team, and what that pays them in the Philippines is going to give them a ton of utility. After a year or two of everybody practicing and working towards the same goals, I certainly believe that you can create an offshore team that rivals any onshore team you have today. It's just about keeping them there and getting a year or two experience under everybody's belt.
Mm-hmm. So what is you, For somebody out there, what does it look like when we're, hey, like, all right, all of this sounds great. I want to go through and start interviewing candidates out there. How do we work with you? How do we get in contact with you? And then what does that process look like? Is it like a month-long onboard? Is there multiple rounds of interviews, multiple candidates, or are you guys behind the scenes kind of have candidates on your bench for specific roles that like they're applying with you guys all the time and you're already pre-vetting them for specific industries?
Yeah, so thank you for asking that. So I've tried to create the most customer-friendly structure that you could possibly see in this area, right? So when you work with me, you know, you can go to www.thrivemodal.com or email me at kyle@thrivemodal.com. But it's as simple as submitting your local hiring form. So if you've already got a job description for somebody you're hiring for locally, send that over to me. Just like a freight broker, in an hour, I'm going to give you back a quote saying, hey, we understand this position. Thank you for sending it. A full-time person is going to cost X. From there, Chris, you say, okay, thank you for the quote. Once you sign it, it takes me about 2 weeks. You do absolutely nothing as a customer. You wait, and in 2 weeks, I deliver to you videos of my team interviewing the candidates. It's got their resumes that have been background checked and employment verified. So your only job then becomes clicking video number 1. And if you don't love the person and the way they sound, well, you click video number 2. And when you see, wow, this person worked for a U.S. freight company for 3 years, previously, then you click the button and you see the video. They're speaking really well. They're talking about, negotiating hostage trucks from people in Chicago. They know their stuff. You will then set you up with an interview for them if you like them. You interview them for an hour. My team's not there. If there's any skills tests that you would normally give to anybody that you're bringing on, we'll give them to these people as well. And really only when you can come back to me and say, Kyle, the talent you've brought me through Thrivemodal is just as good or better than what I was looking at hiring locally. When my clients can say, hey, we really love this person, we'd like to hire them, that's when we hire them for you. And we've been able to achieve a 3.6-year average tenure at this point, meaning our candidates, which are from the post-virtual assistant era. So again, these are people who already have had jobs in U.S. freight, who want their second job in U.S. freight. They're coming to Thrivemodal and saying, hey, I'm a great dispatcher. I've done 3 years of good work. Can you find me my new home? And we're bringing U.S. companies, great experienced Filipino dispatchers, CSRs. All of our people have U.S. freight experience. Again, we're at the time in history where these aren't just English speakers who are learning logistics. These are actually people who have worked at big freight companies who you've heard of for the last couple of years, looking for their next opportunity in U.S. logistics.
Mm-hmm. So these are individuals out there. And I mean, obviously this is a freight show, so we talk about freight related stuff here, you guys. So these are individuals out there who, when you say CSRs, they are out there. They have experience building loads. They have experience calling shippers, receivers, verifying appointment times, PO numbers, weights, commodities, all of that stuff. That is just what they have already done. And, because again, it's like as somebody who's trying to build a company, that's your biggest thing when you start hiring individuals out there is are they going to deliver the exact same quality that your customers are used to? Because unless your goal when you start a business is to build it up to where, maybe you're making 150, 200K by yourself out there, and that's as big as you want to go. There's nothing wrong with that. But a lot of individuals want to grow. They are just afraid to hire people to bring them on because of, for whatever reason that comes out there, everything that you described, right? Are they going to actually do the job?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's exactly it. And Thrivemodal, with my expertise in building a company like Yellow Diamond almost 10 years ago, right? A lot of people who are building their offshore team, they don't hit every time. In fact, they hit like 1 in 4. Thrivemodal makes sure you hit every single time, right? So outside of logistics, we work in finance and accounting, marketing. These are companies that can't, have an accountant join them and fail. So, we're for the company that wants a serious person for their team offshore, found and brought in 1 for 1. These are manager level individuals, and we'll go out and find them for you. We introduce you to them. And really all of our clients say to me, Chris, Kyle, the people that you've brought are as good or better than what we could get locally in Chicago or locally in Atlanta. Thank you. We hired them based on their skills. based on what is available in the market as well. So that's how we get our long tenure, is our clients really do agree that what we're bringing them is as good or better than what they have in their local market. And so they keep it very long term.
Mm-hmm. So what are some of these, because I feel like when it comes to whether it's nearshoring or offshoring right now, there's, there is some resistance out there. I don't understand why there is, but what are some of those cases where, you've talked to some companies that, they were apprehensive at first, but now after working with you, you're like, I can't believe we just didn't go with this a lot sooner with it.
Yeah. You hear a lot of people say, how am I going to know what they're doing from home? And I've just got to kind of, help people picture what they're already doing. And I say, okay, well, when your number 2 employee, goes to lunch and they're working from their car in the parking lot, how are you, managing that with what security? And so really, what I need to help people see is just that, at the end of the day, we're able to bring candidates that have the exact experience that you need for your company, who have 2 to 3 years of experience working at US companies already. And when we bring them to you, you're going to feel that, right? You're not going to have any questions marks when you do this interview. That's what I love for my clients is, you already know how to interview people and how to bring them on your team and grade whether or not they're doing well. This is a very easy thing to do in 2025 to increase your EBITDA, is pick a couple positions to outsource. So that's really what I'm an expert in, is kind of holding my customers' hands, finding out where they are and then creating a great plan for them so that a year or 2 from now, they've got a good offshore team that's starting to rival their onshore team. And they're opening up a whole new cost basis of operation, and really starting to rethink how they're building their business, right? A lot of people have their focus on AI right now. And I get it. AI is a really hot topic, but outsourcing the right way is the number 1 way to increase EBITDA in 2025.
Yeah. I look at it as, no matter what, I'm a realist. All right. And when you're bootstrapping something and you want to grow, you need to look at the most cost-effective way to do it. Right. And I feel like now it's like the resources that are at your disposal, whether it's through this or, like you said, through AI or something, like you're going to be able to build and scale lean, because like that's, from my perspective, man. And like, I just look at it, I got to build up my coffers. All right. I need to build up my emergency funds inside of my business as soon as possible. Right. Like, yes, we've got money stashed away, but like to go the levels that we want to go inside of our business, like we got a lot of work to do out there. And, I also need to look at it from the dollars and cents perspective, where it's like, am I able to scale? Am I able to hire people? But then that retention standpoint is another thing too, right? Is this somebody who's going to want to stay in this seat for a long time or grow and scale? And I look at it as like, I need to be able to sustainably build my company up to do what you said you did there, Kyle. When everybody else was laying people off out there, you guys remained profitable. You guys scaled. You guys didn't get rid of anybody. And that is what I'm looking to do inside of my business, right? Like I talk about this often, man. Like, hey, when I hire people, because like, dude, you worked at a big box brokerage. I worked at a big box brokerage. There's hiring classes. They bring on 30. They hope 3 make it. Yep. I want to find those 3. All right. Like, I don't want to do this hiring class stuff as I scale. And I feel like now with technology, we're able to pair this up to where it's like, now me, Chris Jolly, as one individual, I could probably manage 50 loads a day by myself with the right technology if the freight matches up, right? Like, obviously there's some stuff out there that won't fit inside of this, but now with the right tech, one individual could move 50 loads a day with the right technology. And you're not going to convince me any differently. I've been to all the conferences, you guys. I see what's out there with the right tech stack. You could fight way above your weight class with what's at your disposal right now. And then you pair that up with a nearshore or an offshore staff that is monitoring 24/7, that is out there kind of helping you do that. You guys, like, there are options out there where you don't have to wonder, how can I pay my mortgage and hire people at the same time without going clinically insane while you're building your business?
Yeah, and the ease of switching in and out of pieces offshore, right, versus onshore, and the cost of that is also a huge, positive. Is you can find your great pieces offshore for a much lower price than hiring and firing in the States, which takes a long time and has a lot of consequences. Chris, real quick, right? So outside of logistics, obviously we do CSR, dispatch, we do customer service, we do all sorts of accounting. But this is really what I want to set the table for your fans is this, right? So here are the positions just last month that Thrivemodal provided full-time people for to U.S. businesses. And these U.S. businesses hired Thrivemodal instead of their local talent. So these are all first-time offshore roles. Senior accountant, marketing manager, technical writer, carrier operations team lead, an accountant, bank reconciliations, an options trader, a controller, an SEO designer, a staff accountant, a software developer, account managers for logistics, senior staff accountants, lead generation specialists, recruiters, and Amazon PPC managers. These were all people hired last month from the Philippines to work at U.S. companies. That's quite a staggering list of jobs, and a lot of those jobs pay over $100K here in the States.
Dude, that's the thing, man. Is there's just the talent now, and this is why it's like, I think it's from a competitive standpoint out there, like, if you're threatened, if you feel like your job is threatened by technology, I truly feel like people need to look at it like this. If you're a good employee, if you're a high performer, you're always going to have a job, no matter what, right? Because people will always want that out there. But I feel like a lot of this stuff is the biggest threat to most people out there is their own work ethic. It's they think that they're entitled for way more than they're worth, and they're an average or a below average employee that's been protected by the fact that their competition has only been the people inside of the county that they live in. And now it's like, man, you have that global competition that's out there. So again, I think most people need to rest assured, if you're a hard worker, and you are, right? Like, you also know that if you're not, you're going to be fine no matter what is out there. But if you're not, if you're a below average or a subpar performer, you better watch yourself, because like there is stuff out there now where there's no need to keep you around because of a lack of options.
Yeah, Chris, and you sound like a lot of my customers. We just want hard workers is what I hear over and over. And I go, okay, well, again, a lot of what's going on here in the States is because of inflation, and some jobs just aren't earning the amounts that they need to put a smile on people's faces. But overseas, you've got people, getting into track and trace jobs for logistics companies and moving from lower class to upper class in the matter of 18 months. So that's why you're getting performance from overseas that's much different here in the States, is because we're changing people's lives in the Philippines. And when you have a track and trace job, that changes somebody's life, that's when you get the best track and trace. And that's just how it goes.
Yeah. No, dude, I couldn't agree more with that. And, I think that at this point, with where things are out there, like, your options to grow your business at a faster rate are way more at your disposal now than they ever have been in history. And you don't have to wonder, again, like I openly talk about my learning experiences in business here, because I always want to bring people the reality. I don't just post a highlight reel online because I don't need your clicks and likes, right? Like, I'm really truly chasing impact, and I'm chasing how can I help people better, expedite their success in business, or how can I help people, maybe avoid some of the early pitfalls that I've been faced with inside of my business, because like the opportunities are truly endless. Like, I truly believe in the American dream, because I'm living my American dream right now. And I truly feel like we are at a crucial point in history where traditional work is not going to look the same as when we grew up, Kyle. I think it's a lot different now. And you can really capitalize on a short window, because I feel like that window is going to close really, really fast. And you need to capitalize on this stuff right now.
Yeah. If the best accountant in the world, right now, what they get paid, and I don't know if you can see my hands, but they're pretty far apart, right? If right now, say my hands are a foot apart, 10 years from now, they're only going to be an inch apart, right? Whether you're in Kenya or New York City, if you're the best accountant in the world, what you get paid 10 years from now, it's going to be very similar no matter where you are. And that's just this worldwide workforce thing. If you think about it again, it's been happening in the States for a long time. Accountants and finance people are more expensive in New York City and San Francisco. So people started to hire remote accountants in other spots in the United States that were less expensive. This is just another iteration of this, where guess what? In the Philippines, they're using QuickBooks and NetSuite and all that stuff, and they're ready to go. So it's kind of just another iteration of how far can these people be from me, and still, be effective at the cost basis. So we've always been doing this type of activity. It's just, the internet and Wi-Fi has allowed us to be way more connected.
No, couldn't agree more with that, Kyle. Kyle, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. How does anybody reach out to you to find out more about what you guys got going on?
Yeah, Kyle at Thrivemodal.com. I love meeting with everybody. We'll understand your business, give some suggestions on where to start. And again, Thrivemodal was set up to introduce you to your first person from the Philippines and show you just how good it can be. If you've never looked, come look through me. We'll give you excellent people.
Perfect. Kyle, I appreciate it, man. That's going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you got value in what you heard, subscribe to the show. You guys, if you're feeling really ambitious after this one, which you should be, rank the show on iTunes and Spotify, because if you saw value, chances are that's how your network's going to see value as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang, window down, yelling out money, anything. Hey, ooh, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when I'm getting to the back.